Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Speak Plainly podcast, where we speak plainly about things that matter. I'm your host, Owl Medicine, and today's podcast topic is why you have no discipline. And this is not just the pointing fingers at you, the royal we. There's a lot of people who struggle with discipline, with doing the harder thing. There's always some section in all of our lives where we wish that we had more discipline. And today, we're going to explore the biological underpinnings, as usual, and we're going to explore a protocol that you can use today so you can start making the changes that you want to make in the areas where you think that you have no discipline. And you might genuinely have no discipline, and that's cool. I'm actually most interested in teaching you a way to do the harder thing without exhausting your willpower. So, stick with me to the end, and you'll know why you have no discipline, and you'll learn how to get something close that will at least allow you to do the things that discipline would allow you to do. So, the first thing we should talk about is what is discipline? And rather than give a dry definition of it, I'm going to talk about discipline under the Big Five personality traits. The Big Five personality traits are 5 personality traits that get broken up into smaller and smaller constituent parts. Primarily, they each have 2 parts that make up the 5 personality traits. They are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Discipline is highly associated with conscientiousness. They're all broken down into 2 subcategories, like I said. And conscientiousness, associated with discipline, is broken down into 2 categories: industriousness and orderliness. The reason I'm using the Big Five personality traits is because I have this podcast. I run 3 websites. I have a book that I just got back this week, and she believes we can have it totally done and out into the world by August, which is great because I plan on running out of the country and being gone for 4 months from August to like December. So that's really exciting. What I'm getting at is I'm an ADHD kid. I was diagnosed when I was really young. My mother refused to put me on Ritalin. Because back in the day it was Ritalin, because she was just like, he's a kid. That's what kids do. I'm kind of thankful for that now. But I just want y'all to know that I suck at this, like just as much as anybody else. I suck at the self-discipline. I am a lot of things, and conscientious is not really one of them. And that's why I brought it up. So I've done a little paid, I think it's like $5 or $10 to do a personality test of the Big Five. And what they do is they rank you in a percentile, 1 to 99, or maybe 0 to 100. And they put you basically in a room of 100 people. According to everybody who's taken these tests, you rank in whatever percentile. The same way that you do for like pediatrics to make sure kids are like hitting the right benchmarks and things for their growth and their weight and their height and that sort of thing. So I want to share with you my scores because they're hilarious and will hopefully make you feel much less alone in this discipline thing, because this is not me like I'm preaching at you something I'm wonderful at. This is preaching at you something that I have learned to hack for myself, because I am lowest by far in conscientiousness. So in conscientiousness, well, let me back up. Let's start with openness. Openness, I'm in the 98th percentile. Openness is broken down into intellect and aesthetics. I'm 97th in intellect and 93rd in aesthetics. And intellect and IQ are not exactly the same thing. They do take some time to separate those out. Intellect is really about interest in abstract concepts. Then there's extroversion. I rank 97th in extroversion. That breaks down into enthusiasm, I got 96th, and assertiveness, I got 92. Agreeableness is also broken down into 2. And this one's kind of interesting because in agreeableness, I'm a 54. I'm right on the middle. But agreeableness gets broken down into compassion and politeness. I rank 95 in compassion, and I rank 4th percentile in politeness. With neuroticism, I rank 72. That is a 27 in withdraw and a 94 in volatility. So you're saying that intellect, aesthetics, volatility, extroversion, enthusiasm, assertiveness, compassion, those things I rank in the mid or upper 90s. Conscientiousness, the part that's associated with discipline, my score was 2. I rank in the 2nd percentile in conscientiousness. I rank in the 14th percentile in industriousness, which is one of the smaller, and then in orderliness, the other that make up conscientiousness, I'm in the 1st percentile. So in a room of 100 people, I would be less orderly than 99 of them. In a room of 100 people, I would be less conscientious, meaning less hardworking, less self-disciplined, less concerned with doing that sort of thing than 98 of them. So I'm starting this podcast with that to let you know you are not alone. This is not something I am naturally good at, but I have learned a few really good hacks. So that's what we're going to talk about, is we're going to talk about these hacks. So my first question to people when they say, I want to change, I have no discipline, I want to start being healthier, I want to start going on runs, I want to start writing, I want to start whatever it is that you shoulda, coulda, woulda. When I ask them, hey, do you want to change? They're like, yeah, of course I want to change. But as we talk, we usually uncover that that's not actually that true. That for most of us, we don't want to change because our lives are pretty good. Outside of us beating ourselves up about not doing enough, we actually have really good lives. I mean, we're not being chased by bears or lions or coyotes. We all have cell phones and air conditioning and the internet and doom scrolling and YouTube and podcasts and all kinds of everything. Anything that you could ever possibly want to just passively enjoy your time, you've got. So why would you want to change? Why? Why would you actually want to change? Because especially when I talk to young people, what's the point? They've got their friends online, they're doom scrolling, they're staying engaged on some level, and then they're like, I know I really should. I know I should want to go out and get a job. I know I should be vying for this promotion. I know I should be whatever. But they can't. And there's a reason. So let's play that reason out. Let's play the tape to the end. What exactly is the thought process? And the thought process usually looks something like, I actually really enjoy my life right now. So why would I change it? Because what would life be like if I actually did change? And then it's like, okay, well, I could work really hard, make more money, get promotions, make more money, retire early, and then go back to doom scrolling. Right? Why would I change this if the end result is just doing what I'm doing right now? Why not skip the next 30 years? And really, the only answer to that, as far as I'm concerned, is because the inner voice inside you telling you that you should do more is really annoying. Like, it's really annoying for me. I rank second in conscientiousness. I'm abysmal. I cannot tolerate doing a thing because that's the way that it's been done, doing a thing because it's worked this way so far, doing it because that's the way it has always been done and that's the way we're going to continue to do it. That kind of thing absolutely makes me want to vomit. So I'm not the kind who's just gonna keep doing work that way. Yet I have a book. I have a whole stack of articles that I think are interesting and worthwhile thought exercises that have useful information. I have this podcast. I have my book. I have my ebook, and I have another ebook coming out. And that's a lot of industriousness for a guy whose industriousness was in the 10th percentile. So how did I go about doing this? And the actual answer is competing interests. That's the answer, competing interest. Because what is the actual problem? The problem is your biology is always doing a cost-benefit analysis all the time about everything that you do, whether it's collecting food or going to the bathroom or abstract concepts. Your brain is always doing a cost-benefit analysis. And the cost-benefit analysis of working really hard for 30 years to do the exact same thing that I'm doing right now, lying in bed, is retarded. It's a terrible idea. Why? That doesn't make any sense. So that cost-benefit analysis that's happening biologically, that's a biological decision. You've heard me talk about biological versus logical decisions and turning biological decisions into logical ones. This is a way that we're going to do that. So if this cost-benefit analysis is always on hand, it's always happening in our bodies, whether we like it or not, for real and abstract concepts, how do we get around it? Like I said, the answer is competing interests. Where does this come from? And it actually comes from addiction psychology. We've got lots and lots and lots of good studies and things. Not that I needed them, because I learned this myself firsthand multiple times. You have to have a good enough reason. You got to have a reason to quit. Whether that's doom scrolling or whether it's crack cocaine, you've got to have a damn good reason to quit. And if you don't have one, that cost-benefit analysis is going to forever paralyze you. You're not going to have any motivation to do any different because that cost-benefit analysis is a biological reality that you're not going to be able to get around. So the way that we develop discipline is actually by developing competing interests. And you're probably going, yeah, well, my interest is getting healthy. My interest is going back to school, getting a graduate's degree, getting whatever. And my pushback to this is that actually what you want? Because there isn't a single question on the planet that I can ask people that winds up with more tears than, what do you want? Because people don't know. People don't know what they want. People have no idea. And the reason we don't know what we want is because it's constantly being told to us. We're being told we want this and we want that and we want this. We want this new game. We want this new shirt. We want this new whatever. It doesn't matter. That's the way capitalism and our advertising system is. That's the way that it's designed, is it constantly exposes you to new novel things to try to convince you that you want it. And so this cost-benefit analysis is so deeply ingrained in who we are, just on as a survival mechanism. We have to make sure our competing interests are as deeply ingrained. So whatever superficial thing that you got target marketed at by Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Twitch or whatever it is that you are on, Unless you genuinely deeply want it, it's not going to be enough. And so this is where we go back to the, I don't actually want to change. And if that's you, you're like, I want to change, but I actually don't want to because my life is pretty good. I say, huzzah, well done, good on you, because that's a level of self-insight that is really powerful and really useful. And if you're one of those people, I have an additional question for you. Question number 1 is, what do you want? And do you want to change? Really, those are 2 separate questions, but they're basically the same. And the second one, if you look at your life and you really recognize that you don't actually want to change, the second question is, do you want to change? Do you wish that you were the type of person who could change and could do the hard things? And if the answer to that is yes, then I have a protocol for you. So here's what we're going to do. If you're one of these people who struggles with discipline, and if your answer to that is no, you're probably a liar. But if the answer to that is yes, and you're not a liar, then the whole key is developing a genuine competing interest. So I want you to now write down 10 things that you want, that you really want. And they don't all need to be good or healthy or whatever, but write down 10 things that you really, really want. And not just like, I want to doom scroll more, right? Because like that's part of it, but let's do something else and you'll see why. So write down 10 things that could be improvements that you want to do. And when you have all 10 of those, I want you to sit with them like all day, maybe even 2 days. And I want you to go through and I want you to scratch out all the ones that you don't actually want. Like, you wish you were healthier, but do you want to do the work to be healthier? No, probably not. Maybe you do. Maybe that is the one thing that you actually really want. But write down all 10, and then I want you to go through and I want you to scratch out all the ones that aren't genuinely competing interests. You got to scratch those out because that is what the outside world is telling you to do. And if you don't do this right, if you don't write it down and you don't figure out which ones you actually want to do, that cost-benefit analysis that's going on in your brain all the time will win out, because that does matter. Like on a biological survival mechanism level, that does matter. So if you delude yourself into thinking that you want something that you don't actually want, you will be right back in the same scenario where your brain is running this cost-benefit analysis, and you're going to lose. So write down your 10 things, scribble out the ones that don't actually matter, and try to find one, literally just one. Find one thing on that list that actually matters to you, that you genuinely, in your heart, for yourself, not for anybody else, not for your mama, not for your daddy, not for your kids, not for your auntie, not for your students, not for your teachers, not for nobody but you, that you really, really want to do. And I want you to come up with one thing, one teeny tiny little step. And I say teeny tiny for a reason. That's not a suggestion. This is a command. If you want to follow this protocol, this is the demand of the protocol, is do the smallest thing possible. So if you need to make a doctor's appointment, the smallest thing possible is not to call and make that doctor's appointment. The smallest thing possible might be to write on your calendar to call the doctor tomorrow. That is the smallest possible step. And the reason it's the smallest possible step, there's a whole philosophy. The Japanese have a name for everything, and they have this philosophy they've developed called Kaizen. And this is exactly it. It is about making the smallest possible change that you can make every day. And I'm not saying that you need to add something every single day to this, but I am saying that you need to start with the absolute smallest thing possible. It's a 5-minute walk. It's one call to an old friend. And I know as soon as I said 5-minute walk, your brain interrupted me at least 2 times in those milliseconds after I said that and was like, but that's not enough. That's not enough. I understand. Here's the next caveat. This is important because we're all going to go through this. When we decide this is what I want to do and we develop these competing interests, when we go to make the next smallest step, our brain, because it's always running that cost-benefit analysis, our brain is going to go for us. It's going to go, that's not enough, that's not enough, that's not enough. Which is why every time you try to make a little change in your life, you're not making a small change. You're trying to overhaul everything about you. You're trying to overhaul your whole freaking life. It's not like I want to walk for 5 minutes a day. It's I need to be a fundamentally different person so I can do the hard things. And let me tell you, boo-boo, that's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's motherfucking bullshit. You're never going to do that. None of us can. Our biology is it changes and adapts, but it is heavily reliant on its continuity, which means large amounts of things need to be the same in order for everything to work because it's co-evolved. We have co-evolved with and for certain things, environments, and stimuli. And so we are mostly in need of staying the same because it works. And who you are works. Again, you probably have a pretty good life. If you're listening to this podcast right now, you're probably not starving. You're probably not in a war zone. You're probably not fleeing religious or sexual persecution. You've probably got a pretty good life, and the worst part about your life is that you don't do more with it. That's a pretty cool place to be. So instead of beating yourself up about it, figure out what it is that you really want. Because it's not about what other people want you to want. It's not about pleasing other people, because the reason that you don't do more right now, the reason that you're okay with sacrificing more money and sacrificing self-respect and sacrificing respect of other people is because you're actually doing what you want to do. You want to doom scroll. You want to watch YouTube. You want to play video games for hours on end. Those things are rewarding. They were designed to be neurologically rewarding. So yes, you do want to do those things. Even if you want to not want to do those things, you still want to do them. They were designed to make you want to do them. And they were designed to make your life easy. So when you're really tired, it's an easy way to connect with people because you don't have to pick up a phone and call somebody. You can just check their Facebook. You could follow the stock market after hours when it's closed. Because that's what this technology was invented for. It was invented for us when we're tired, when we're at our lows. And then if we engage with it at our lows, we get these really intense dopamine dumps because it's so neurologically rewarding. And then we're exhausted. So we don't have the discipline to start picking it up again after we've been doom scrolling for 5 hours. So you have to figure out what you actually want. And you can't lie to yourself about it. And this is the single most difficult part of all of this. You cannot lie to yourself about it. And I almost guarantee that no matter how good you are at all the things that you do, you're probably just as good at lying to yourself. It seems to be a fundamental survival skill, necessary for the entire species. So you got to get through that in this. And don't lie to yourself about what you actually want. It's hard, it's confusing, and your brain will constantly go to, but that's not enough. And something about that's not enough is probably a good sign that you're on the right track because you have a good life. From a biological perspective, this cost-benefit analysis, really, why the hell would you do anything? Why would you change anything? You have a phenomenal life. You're laying around, you're laying in bed, you're sitting on a lazy boy, you're in climate control. You have access to all of the information in the world and you don't have to do anything with it. You have a really good life. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't happen, but I think you get my meaning. You've got a really good life. So you need a really, really good reason to make it harder. Because that's what you're trying to do. Self-discipline is doing the harder thing. I mean, that's the job of the prefrontal cortex. So if you're under the age of 30, it's really hard to do the right thing. It's like really hard to do the hard thing because that part of the brain isn't fully developed. But it's still very important. So the way I've navigated this is I have developed competing interests for myself. I know that I will start things and I have no follow through typically. So with the book, I had to force myself to do a Patreon just so other people would be investing money so I would feel guilty enough that I had to stay involved in writing the book. That's something that really worked for me. I wanted to write the book, but it was really hard, and not writing a book is way easier than writing a book. So I also had to give myself some kind of external motivation in that way, but it came from a purely internal place where I knew I had something in me that I wanted to get out and I wanted to share with the world. And that came from me, right? So my competing interest, even though I used what I call environmental prosthetics to help me achieve my goal, the goal was truly mine. The competing interest was genuinely from my heart of hearts. So you've got to find what is your actual interest in your heart of hearts. What is your competing interest? And that's probably going to take a dopamine detox of some sort. There are many dopamine detox protocols out there. I don't know if you need to go as far as like not listening to any music whatsoever. Some of them go that far. There's lots of different varieties. You can do one of those if you're a prescriptive type, or you can just try to do a lot less. That's kind of the way that I do them. I'll take myself out into the woods because there's plenty of stimulation, but it's not technological, so it seems more even-keeled for me. And that's how I will disconnect. And during that disconnection time, the false implanted desires that I have coming from the society itself all fall away. For the most part. Sometimes I'll be out camping and there's like a piece of camping gear that I saw somewhere that I'm really excited about and I can't wait to get when I come back. But usually, like even with that, it's something that I will use and I'm excited about. It's a want, right? And that does come from a good place. But what I'm saying is you got to cut out all of the chatter from the society around you telling you what you want all the time. We're constantly bombarded with everything that we're told to buy. And they are doing their damnedest to convince us. There's an entire branch of psychology now called consumer neuroscience. And they're doing like fMRIs of your brain at point of sale. That is how deep they get into your brains. It's not even accidental. It's not even from a good guess or trial and error. They're doing science now to be able to manipulate your biology against your will to make you want things that they create. That's what you're up against. So you've got to find a real desire. So make your list of 10 things. There's a study that I want to bring up here. So it's a pretty good study. It was done many years ago at Stanford, and they took kids who enjoyed drawing, and they gave them gold stars for the drawing. They already enjoyed drawing. They did it on their own. They were perfectly motivated to do it, and then they were given gold stars. And then they stopped giving these children gold stars. And guess what the children stopped doing? They stopped drawing. Now, these kids were drawing before they ever got gold stars. They were drawing because it was a pleasurable event for them. It was the process itself was enjoyable on some level, or they wouldn't have been doing it. But the second that they were rewarded for the act of drawing, and then that reward was taken away, they stopped. They had no desire to do it. And what I want to point out about this is why this matters is it's about the way that dopamine works in our systems. This is about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivations. This is about really your inner motivation versus the external motivation that Facebook or Instagram and all the companies that are advertising on there are pushing onto you. See, when we get a reward at the end of hard work, it makes us chunk time differently. Dopamine has a huge influence on the way that we perceive time, or the way that we chunk time. And so when we have all of this hard work, and then we get to the end of that hard work and we have a little reward, even something as simple as a gold star, we automatically, because of our evolutionary past, attribute that gold star as the reward at the end, and we start to separate, we start to dissociate the work itself from the reward. So suddenly, then we're drawing, and the reason I'm drawing is no longer because I enjoy it, but it's to get a gold star. And I draw because I enjoy it, but now I'm getting a gold star, and now I'm drawing because I want a gold star. And if they stop giving me a gold star, I'm no longer interested in drawing. Because what the work itself used to be rewarding for me, and now the work itself is no longer rewarding. The reward is that gold star. And that kind of summarizes how we developed a stick-to-itiveness. Because there's really a few things happening with a lack of discipline, right? There is, why can't you get started? And then when you get started, why can't you stick with it? And we've covered some of why it's hard to get started, because really there's no damn reason to. We all live good lives, and the worst part of most of our lives in America and in the Western world is our brains telling us that we need to do more. And we've talked about the cost-benefit analysis that's happening in our brains all of the time. And then we've talked about this black and white, you're not doing enough thinking that the brain comes up with as a story, because if it can get you to focus on this all or nothing thing, you're going to choose nothing because of that cost-benefit analysis. It just doesn't make caloric sense for you to choose the hardest thing possible when you're trying to overhaul your life. Right? So that's why we're doing the Kaizen principle, this smallest available step that we can possibly take. And that's how we get started. We figure out what it is that we want. We can make our list, get rid of all of the things except for one that we know that we genuinely want, and we'll take one baby step toward getting that done, a 5-minute walk a day or whatever yours is. Then it's a matter of stick-to-itiveness, right? How do we stick to it? And that's what this study explores for me. We have to find a way to convince ourselves that the effort is the reward itself. That the process for me of writing has become rewarding, because now I see myself figuring out what I think in real time in front of my own eyes on a page. Whether that page is paper or digital, I get to see these concepts that in my head are like a big ball of yarn, and as I pin them to the paper, they turn into a script that then can be edited and edited and edited until I fine-tune it down to exactly what I want it to say and exactly what the gem of that whole wadded ball of thought process was. But the process itself of writing is now enjoyable for me. And that is because I stopped rewarding myself for writing in that way. I started making writing a more enjoyable experience for myself. I love having a really good cup of coffee. I'll drive to this really great coffee shop in the neighboring town, and I do all of that. But I'm careful not to only do that, because every single one of these dopamine enriching activities that come to surround my practice of writing, which is the thing I'm working on being disciplined at, all of those eventually become barriers of entry, because if I don't have the gas money or the money for the coffee, or I just can't get there, or I'm out of town, or whatever, all of these things become, they go from being stepping stones for my self-discipline to tripping hazards for my self-discipline. Whereas if I just really remember why I'm writing, that brings me back to that big piece of motivation, that only real piece of motivation that can outcompete the cost-benefit analysis. There's very little in me that I want more than an easy life. And that's what you have to find. You have to find what it is that you want more than an easy life. And you're not going to find it if you're on the internet, if you're always connected, because you're bombarded all day, every day. Find some place. I mean, if it's bad enough for you, take a vacation out into the middle of nowhere, rent an Airbnb, go to a national forest and stay out there, pitch a $40 tent, buy a used one on Facebook Marketplace or on Craigslist, and take yourself out to go detox away from everything, and do it as many times as you need to figure out what it is that you actually want. I wanted my pain to mean something. That's what I wanted. I wanted my pain to mean something. I wanted my experiences and the hell I had to go through, and then purposefully putting myself through more hell to undo the demon I had become because of the hell that I had gone through. And I wanted it all to be worth it. Because the trauma turns you into a certain type of person, and then it's up to us to undo that certain type of person. That's what I meant by the demon on the other side of the hell. The hell being childhood and early life and all of that, and then the demon being who I was in the military and getting out. And I had to undo all of that, and I wanted it to be worth it. And I wanted to help somebody else not have to go through all of that as blindly as I did. I can't go through it for you, but I can at least, if I sit long enough and I think hard enough, I can come up with why I did what I did, and how it all worked together to create this pretty dope life that I have now. But at the heart of it, I wanted my pain to be worth it. I wanted it to be worth something. I wanted it to mean something. And that is my motivation for writing. That's my motivation for this podcast. It's especially my motivation for the writing, though. And that's what I've become disciplined in. And you've seen I haven't done a podcast every week. I don't think that I need to. I did for a long time because consistency was really important for me. I didn't think I would be able to do an every week or even every other week podcast. And I knew that if I tried to do it every month, I would just drop off. It would be too far in between, and I would lose motivation about it, and I wouldn't be able to get it all done, and I would just stop. So early on, I had to make it consistent enough that I could stay in it enough that I would enjoy the work itself, because there would be some continuity from one week to the next. But you've seen that I don't always make it every week. And I no longer view that as a lack of self-discipline. I have now evolved a bit to go, unless I have something that's really worth saying, I'm not going to say anything. Because there's a million podcasts out there, and they're talking and laughing, and people and enjoy them and watch them or listen to them, whatever. Get your giggles on. That's great, but I don't want to just add to the entertaining stuff. If I can make it like edutainment, awesome. But entertainment is not my goal here. It's about providing something that's quality, something that's worthwhile. Something that can spark a moment of insight in people's lives. So if I don't have something worth saying, then now I'm just not going to say anything at all. And I've only been able to get to this point because I've developed the quote and unquote discipline. And I don't really love that word, because it's really just doing the hard thing. It's really just doing the hard thing. And that's why the phrase for ages has been remember your why. Remember your why. Because when you remember your why, if your why actually matters, why did you start doing this? Why did I start writing? Why did you start walking? When you remember your why, you can compete with that cost-benefit analysis, but only if it's true to you. All right, so in summary, I've talked to you guys about self-discipline. This is why you have no self-discipline, because discipline is about doing the hard thing when the hard thing doesn't need to be done immediately. That is associated with conscientiousness in the big 5 personality traits. I rank abysmally in conscientiousness. I have 0 discipline according to my personality profile. But I'm a sneaky motherfucker. So I've learned how to manipulate myself into being able to do the hard things without willpower being involved at all. This is not about using your will to overcome anything, because that's never going to work. Because of this cost-benefit analysis thing, it's not going to work. Maybe for a few people who rank as high in conscientiousness as I do in extroversion or openness, maybe they can, but I sure as hell can't. So you have to figure out, do you actually want to change? And if you're honest with yourself, you're probably going to say, no, not really. But I do want to change. And if you want to change, write down 10 things that you want to change, 10 things that you want to do. And I want you to go through and eliminate 9 of them. And just stick with the one that you know comes from you, that you know is intrinsic to you, that represents your value systems, because it's only your value system that matters. It is you obeying your value system that allows you to say no to more money and say no to the respect that you would have if you did the harder thing right now. Because right now, you are living within your values of doing what you want to do and doing the doom scrolling or the YouTubing or whatever it is that you're addicted to. Once you figure out what that piece of motivation really, really is for you, the next step is taking the smallest step possible. The principle of Heizen. That principle is going to be your friend, because your brain's automatic reaction to, I need to change this, when the fact of the matter is your life is peachy keen and the only thing making a problem out of it is you. So why would you actually want to change on a biological level? Like, really, you need to get that into your head on a biological level, and you have no impetus for change. If you did, it would be easy and you wouldn't need discipline for it. So you do the Heizen thing. You take the smallest possible step that you can take to make change toward your goal. And you do that on one and only one goal. And that's how we're going to start. Because your brain, in an effort to continue with its cost-benefit analysis, as part of its cost-benefit analysis, your brain is going to go into this black and white thinking, because it's like, well, the only reason to change is because there's a need to change. And a need to change usually presents as a threat in our experience on a evolutionary level. So our amygdala kicks in and we have this black or white thinking, and we try to overhaul our entire lives rather than just making one small thing, knowing your brain, like being smart, your body being smart, and knowing if it's all or nothing, you will choose nothing. It's just trying to shortcut it. It's trying to make your life easier for you, man. So stick to the smallest change. Be careful for that black and white thinking, because it will come. And when it comes, just recognize it for what it is and go, nope, I have a plan for this. I see that. I want to do more, but I'm going to do this one small thing. And I'm going to continue doing this one small thing. And that gets us started. And then we have the stick-to-itiveness of it. And this might be too much to put into one podcast. I feel like maybe they should have been 2. But the stick-to-itiveness comes from attaching work to the reward. Finding a way to experience your work, your discipline, whatever it is that you are trying to do more of, finding a way to experience that as pleasurable, as rewarding itself. I don't know how that's going to work for you. Walking is a great example because when it's like, still to this day, when I want to go on a walk, it's so hard to get out the door. And the second I'm out the door, it is rewarding. Right? So that's actually an easy one. It was a little bit harder to find that kind of enjoyment and pleasurability in writing because I had to go through a lot of being a bad writer first, but I enjoy getting better at things. So I saw myself getting better, and that was motivation for a little while. And then I got to the place of like, okay, well now I've got this cloudy, nebulous concept in my head, and the process of working that down and getting it clear, making this nebulous, abstract, opaque concept become crystal clear, that is incredibly rewarding. More rewarding than an affogato. And my God, I love an affogato. Like espresso and ice cream in the middle of the day before noon, that is like one of my ultimate like little self-indulgences that I love, 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 love. But that reward of seeing that come to life and become clear and making it become like made clear by me on my own with my own effort and my own thoughts can't come close to an affogato. Not even close. Not even close to a big old dick neither. It just isn't. And that's because I have tied the work to the reward itself. So, oh, you hear that? Those were birds. I am someplace new. I'm experimenting with some new things because I'm moving out of my apartment and I'm moving back into my van full time. And I started the podcast in the apartment, and now I'm trying to find ways to be able to do the podcast not living in the same place. So I'm actually out at a campground right now, and I've tried to find a spot that was quiet enough, but I just heard birds, and I hope that you heard the birds as well. I've taken up enough of your time today. If you have made it this far, congratulations. You're more disciplined than you probably give yourself credit for, because my guess is, as you listened to this podcast at least 3, 4, 5, maybe 10, 11, 72 times, you wanted to turn it off. And you didn't. Because you were waiting for the reward. You were waiting for the pieces of advice that were going to be useful for you. So, if you made it this far, I want to give you a congratulations and remind you that you actually probably have a bit more discipline than you maybe thought. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for the discipline to stick around until the end. I hope this was useful. This is why you have no discipline. And if you like this podcast, consider supporting us on Patreon, consider donating on Buy Me a Coffee, and I would really appreciate it if you like this and you experiment with this protocol of writing down the 10 things. Like, what do you want? Do you want to change? Do you want to change? Making a list of 10 things, narrowing it down to 1, doing the Kaizen principle, attaching the work to the reward itself. If you do all of these things, please send me an email. Email us at speakplainlypodcast@gmail.com and tell me about your experience. I really, really, really want to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, stay curious and stay uncomfortable.